Thank you very much. And now we have a one-on-one interview, and I have the honor to invite to the stage Hen Zender, who's a correspondent and anchor in Channel 13. Noah Zender is the younger sister of Hen, who's a 22-and-a-half-year-old who was murdered in the Nova party on the 7th of October while she was sheltering in a mobile shelter next to Kibbutz Re'im. I have the honor to invite Eyal Waldman to the stage, Israel Prize Laureate. Israel Prize Laureate in Entrepreneurship and Technological Innovation for 2024. His daughter, Danielle, and her partner, Noam Shai, were murdered in the massacre that occurred in the Nova party on October 7. So if you would please join us on stage. Hello, Eyal. Hello to everyone. Thank you for being here. A few moments before we entered, I saw that you met Yoav Kish, Minister of Education. Was there any apology for trying to undermine your Israel Prize candidacy? How much do you deal with this issue today? I mean, I know that in the media we talked about it greatly and justifiably, so the question of the Israel Prize, how much do you think about it today? It's long been behind me. I don't think about it too much anymore. So what do you think about in these days? I think the most difficult thing today is that same government that caused the greatest catastrophe to the state of Israel is still there. They're still in their seats. This extreme right government. And I look at all aspects of this, the security issue, domestic security, education, medicine. Thousands of doctors are leaving. The economy, we're losing $1 billion a day. Our external, international relations, external relations, which are on the collapse. There's no government the government isn't doing anything positive. Everything they're doing is negative. And I'm afraid that our state is on the threshold of collapse, at a no return point. And I talked to Yuli Edelstein previously, and Mr. Kish, and I was talking to Arnon. We have to have elections, and we have to determine what the next government is going to be. And I think Yair Lapid's speech in the Knesset in regards to Netanyahu's remarks is right. We have to determine who Israel's next leaders will be. I hope they won't be corrupt. I hope they're honest people. I hope they take care of all of Israel's citizens and do the right thing. But I do have to mention one thing: the hostages. We're sitting here and talking. We're in an air-conditioned room, and as we sit here, there are 120 hostages. Some of them may be dead, but there are dozens, I hope dozens that are alive here. And we're not doing anything. We're sitting on our hands. We're not doing anything to bring them back. And I don't think the Prime Minister or this government are working in the right fashion. I mean, we heard of Yuli Edelstein and Kish, we heard their remarks, but I don't see that there are any real intentions behind the remarks. We have to do everything in our power to bring back those hostages, and it doesn't matter what needs to be done. We need to do everything in order to bring them home, and then take the next step. Certainly. What are you doing in these days in order to deal with all of these things? You talked about replacing the government, changing the government, but what else? Well, I have my friend here, Lial Shraga, and we have heard two amazing court rulings. First of all, in regards to the enlistment of the ultra-Orthodox sector, and secondly, in regards to the submarine investigation. I work behind the scenes. We do several things, but the goal at the end of the day is to be positive, to try to see what changes need to be done to make things better. We don't want to harm anybody. We want a burden sharing. We're not against the ultra-Orthodox sector. We want to enlist them and to have them help us. And there's now a reserve division. It's not a secret. I re-enlisted to reserve service. I'm not so young, but I re-enlisted to reserve service. I think this is important for all of us to take part, to share the burden, and not allow other people to do 120 days in reserve service and then go back after 120 days. We all, and I'm willing to go back to reserve service. I hope we all, but the religious people, the ultra-Orthodox Jews, they have to understand this is not against them. We're not trying to harm them. The Torah also states that one must defend yourself, defend Israel. But up until now, you haven't ever denied the possibility of entering politics. You said you didn't want to before October 7, but this has been bandied about, this idea. And yesterday there was an interview that you interviewed in Bloomberg. And again, this was coming up, the establishment of a political party in which you are involved. Do you want to tell us about it? Okay. I'm not going to avoid the question. Journalists sometimes write things. I mean, I'll tell you exactly what I mean. I personally was less interested in entering politics. This is not some great aspiration of mine. I like my life. But if we see that there is no recourse, that there's no possibility of having an honest and responsible government in Israel, that maybe, maybe I will go into politics. I'm not hiding from this. I very much hope, that we will have responsible people who lead this country and we won't have to enter politics, but if we do. So you're not going to tell us who you've been in contact with? I talk to a lot of people. I don't think that's relevant. I think we have to focus first of all on disbanding this Knesset. And after that we'll have 3 months, maybe 3.5 months, and there'll be other entities that arise, hopefully healthy ones, and then we'll have free elections and finally elect a government which is not extreme right, not extreme left either, but a government that is moderate, that represents the great diversity of sectors in Israel, and that will work for the benefit of all Israel. We built this country 75 years, this amazing country that was constantly on the rise, growing in high-tech, in economy, in medicine, in education. And suddenly we are in this dire spiral downwards. We must stop this downward spiral. We cannot allow extremist right-wing activists to bring us down. We have to have elections. Yesterday, the warning letters of the submarine committee were published. And this is the foundation for a national commission of inquiry, of course. But as we've seen throughout the entire terms, plural, of Netanyahu, he's never, of course, ever established a national commission of inquiry. Are you concerned that this inquiry commission has yet to be established, and the one that's for October 7 will never materialize? It's almost been 9 months since the beginning of this war. 9 months almost since the catastrophe of October 7. We must understand what's happening. I understand that the rumor mills are busy and people are trying to do things and people are trying, but we cannot allow time to continue to drag by. Now we have to investigate what happened on October 7. It's not an investigation committee against the government. It's not an investigation committee against the IDF. It's an investigation to understand how October 7, this horrific catastrophe, could have happened to us in every respect. And the goal is to bring the facts, to seek out the truth, and to bring conclusions, because every day that drags by and we don't do this, things are forgotten, things are put aside. I don't know why the Prime Minister doesn't establish such an inquiry committee. I mean, I don't understand it. Throughout your life, you've lost many friends. Your uncle, Yoel, bereavement and loss have been part of your life. But October 7, you lost your young daughter, Danielle, and her partner. What did you learn about yourself since then? I'm going to talk about other things, if that's okay. I had 8 friends that were murdered, killed through various military operations and wars throughout the years, and also a family member from Nativ HaAsara, and my uncle who was killed in El Arish in 1971. I'm named for him. So I've no loss and bereavement. But I was asked what can be done. What can be done? I think now, first of all, in order to release the hostages, sadly, we have to have an agreement with the Hamas, because the Hamas is holding our hostages, and they are the only ones who can release them. And we have to have, how painful it is, however painful, however difficult, our first priority, and yes, our first priority must be to bring the hostages back. Head of director of Mellanox said, when you have to finish a deal, every deal has to be, a good deal is when both sides leave, when they've won something but also lost something. You have to have negotiations. We have to have an Arab coalition that takes responsibility, a mandate over an education, even Emirate education to Gaza, bring it until there's no, long direct, and this is the alliance between Egypt, Qatar, Jordan, others, I don't know who I forgot from the list, and a technocratic government that wasn't involved in October 7, to do 6 weeks of a ceasefire, then 4 rounds of returning the hostages, women, children, injured, elderly, citizens, soldiers, and finally the deceased, the bodies, coming finally to an agreement that within 3 months the IDF is leaving Gaza and retreats back to the border, and we have a security margin of 1 kilometer, and then bringing our forces home, whether it's through and working in collaboration with the Arab coalition, of course with the Americans, and then the Palestinian Authority, and take responsibility in terms of security about what's happening in Gaza as we sit on the parade. Bring a body like the UNBF to rebuild Gaza. That will take 2, 4 years, whatever. This coalition has to stay in place 4 or 5 years at least, in order to be responsible for education and to having and slowly we have to move and shift Gaza for the people who live there. We don't have to do it ourselves, Israel. We have to allow others to do so, but we have to bring back our hostages, maintain our borders and perimeter, and rehabilitate life in the south. In regards to the north of Israel, I don't think that will be resolved until we resolve Gaza. We have to resolve the issue of Gaza and then go back to dealing with the north. I think that will be the only realistic possibility. We don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to be very brief. Did you also wait for a phone call from the Prime Minister as Ezal Shai, the previous Knesset member? No, I knew he wouldn't call. Could you tell me about a call that you did get that surprised you maybe in these last few months? No. But I did meet with the heads of state in Europe, in the US, in Arab states, and with Palestinians, and most of the conversations were professional. We put our emotions aside, and we looked at how our future can be built in this geopolitical situation we find ourselves in, and I think those conversations were productive, and I think we can do a lot of positive things with people. That's what we need to focus on. If I put Daniel and my daughter in every conversation, that won't bring us anywhere. Now, I met with 2 Emirate friends of mine, by the way. They are sure that the IDF soldiers are raping women in Gaza. These people are sure that IDF soldiers are raping and murdering Palestinian women in Gaza. Now, it doesn't matter what we say. That's what they believe. And when you talk to them, if you contend them and go head to head with them, they don't believe you because they're being fed this through Al Jazeera and so forth. But we have to wait. Find a way to forge ahead. And I always think when I'm negotiating with people, when I'm talking to people, what is in their head, and how do I go around that and find a way to make them continue to work with me, to collaborate with me, to get some kind of result which is good for me and good for them in some way, to find some kind of way forward. We brought desalination plants we can bring desalination plants to Gaza. We've already brought many of these things, electricity, desalination. We can do a lot more things. Let's focus on the positive things. I think our time is over, so I can't continue. Yes, our time is over, but I join your call. Bring back 120 hostages today. their security and well-being, of the IDF soldiers that are still in combat. Yes, amen to all of our soldiers coming home safe. And I hope that we have a leadership, a government in Israel that will be worthy of what we have sacrificed. And I want to give you a warm embrace for the loss and bereavement of your sister as well.